All right, so I created a new module, a new project on my PyCharm, okay, and I called it Module 1 Tutorial. This is just me showing you how to do things. Remember, after you do that, the first thing you do is you kind of minimize this venv folder, okay, and I'm going to create a new file, so a new Python file, and I'm going to name this file assign 01 and then 01 with my last name. Now remember, no capitalization, no spaces in your file names. That's kind of a good standard for where we're going, okay? So I have my file name here, and it's open here, okay? And what I want to do is I want to create, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my name on this, right? So put my name on it, put what assignment it is, actually put what class it is, because I have a couple different classes. So I'm going to say CBIS 4210. And then I'm going to say assignment 1-1. It kind of already did that. And then it's today's date. So I'm going to say 8/27/2024. All right. And now I'm going to try to figure out a simple application. And I'm going to just take I'm just going to take two inputs and I'm going to add them together and I'm going to make them into an output. Okay, so the very first thing I want to do is I want to give it a comment, get to inputs from a user and sum them together. Okay, all right, so the first thing I want to do is I want to create a main function. Now a function is just a way of organizing your code. Okay, so I'm going to say def main. Okay, and in here I'm going to get my two inputs. Now it's telling me the code that I should be using. So because I'm using GitHub Copilot, so it says get the first number from the user, num1 equals int, so it makes it a whole number. Okay, and grab the input, enter the first name, then get the second. So I'm just going to take all of that as my answer, my solution. Okay, now this is not actually going to run because I didn't actually, I just defined the main function. I didn't actually use the main function. So now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to call the main function. And it tells me to call main. That right there is my answer. Okay. So all of my code from all of the code everywhere is inside this main function. Okay. And then I call main. Okay. Now, let's just assume that my function is a little bit bigger than this, or my application might be a little bit bigger than this. Okay, so I can write another function and use that other function within my main function. Okay, so let's just call this one calculate the two numbers. Okay, and sum them together. So I'm going to call it def calculate the sum, and I'm going to put the two numbers in there, and it's going to return back to whatever I asked for it, those two numbers. Okay, so I just made up a name, calculate sum, add, and then I'm going to pass in to this num1 and num2, and I'm going to send back out num1 and num2. Okay, we'll talk about functions in the future, but really that's the basics of it. Okay. So down here, now that I get I'm still getting my number here, and I'm getting my number here, but now I want to use this function. Okay, so instead of summing them here, I can now sum, and then I can have my words. Let's just do that again. So sum, calculate sum, and now I'm going to send in. So I don't want to do that. I want to say sum. Okay, just like that. So sum is a variable, and I'm calling my function. I'm passing in two numbers, and I'm returning back out the sum. Then it's printing out what the sum is. So I can have multiple functions on the same in the same page for your assignment. Okay. Now, just to make this read a little bit better, I might do something like that, where I put the inputs together, my calculation together and my outputs together. Give it a little bit of white space, make it easier to read. Okay. Now, things to remember. All variables, which are here, and here, all variables are lowercase. Okay. Second thing, we are not using object-oriented programming in this class. So if you see the word class anywhere, it's probably wrong. Instead, we're using procedural language. Okay. Meaning it's going to read from top down to bottom. Okay. This also can be called functional language because we're using functions. But for right now, we're just going to basically say this is procedural language. We're just using a very organized method of programming, very simple to use. Okay, not object-oriented. So sometimes GitHub's going to try to write this in object-oriented. Just tell it we're not using object-oriented. Okay. Now remember, we're not just writing the code. We're trying to remember what the code is that we're doing. So we can change things out. Like for instance, I can call this number 1 and number 2, okay, or bucket 1, bucket 2, okay, and then down here, notice it changes out that these now are not, it has a little red underline. That means it's never been defined, okay, and these right here are grayed out. So if I copy that and paste it here, this no longer becomes grayed out and it's being used. So if you see something red underlined, it will even tell you. It doesn't. So it's saying right here, unresolved reference. I don't know what that is what it says, right? So you come over here and you just paste that in there, okay? Now, notice something interesting about this function. Number 1 does not match up to number 1 here, okay? Those are two different names, okay? However, when you're passing into the function, this first item here becomes the first item here. So this could be called fish, and this could be called duck. It doesn't matter. It's first item to first item. Okay. Second item to second item. Okay. And whatever's returned out gets put into this bucket here. Okay. Not something super huge you got to remember right away, but over the semester, you will understand functions a lot better. All right. Now that I'm finished with this, I want to send this up to my GitHub. Okay, so most of you already have that one repository. That's all you need is one repository. If you name them right, it will make it easy for me to grade. So just send it up to the repository. You cannot, let me just come up here and I'll just say, share project on GitHub, and I'll share it. I'm already connected to GitHub. And it says, what do you want to send up? I want to send that one up. So I'm going to add that. Now, if I come over here and look, all my changes have been done, okay? And it looks like my GitHub, everything should be working, right? So if I come back over here and I make some changes, let's just say I want to, instead of calculate sum, I want to do another one, and let's just multiply the numbers together. Now it's calculate product, num1, num2, and returns it. So it does all that for you. And I don't think it likes that. Multiply. There we go, multiply. All right. Now I can come down here and I could say product equals calculate product, and it sends in those two numbers to calculate the product. And then I can come down here and say the product of the two products is product. And I'll put those here. Print the calculations of the two numbers. Okay. Now, I finished this. It's been saved. But if I come back over here, there's been changes to my file. So I can say select the changes. I have to add a commit message. Okay. You only have to usually do this once. So I'll say, new changes. And if I click commit, actually, all that does is think of it as like saving your Word document, okay? You just saved it, but you didn't upload it yet, right? So you need to send it to Dropbox or OneDrive, right? So doing the commit and the push will save your changes and send it out to GitHub. So we'll click that little button there, and it says, what do you want to do? We want to send it, so we're going to push it. And the whole thing happens pretty fast. Now, if we go to GitHub, it's all out there and it's working great. All right, so that's my little helpful hint for project or for assignment 1 for 4210 and assignment 2 for 6391.